Okay, welcome to the November 9th Crow's Corner. Today we've got a great Crow's Corner, some exciting news we actually have from the developers. I had a great meeting with them the other day, and we're actually going to get to find out what are the exclusive items to the season. So we're actually going to get to find out what is exclusive to the season and dun dun dun, sort of exclusive to the season. So we're going to find that out. We're going to also find out exactly how things are duplicating the ominous embers and what goes on with duplicating the ominous and restless embers. So you're not only going to find out what that is, but how it's done. And so that'll be something exciting, but we're going to get to that a little later in the show. So stick around and we will get to that before the show is done. So we're going to start off here with the questions that you guys submitted over the form. The form you can find in any of the Crow's Corner links that are posted in the Crow's Corner channel on the Discord. Just follow the link, and there's a form where you can choose a category and you can submit your questions that are kind of in a little more detailed that you kind of don't want to type in the chat here, that are uh, a little longer and a little more detailed that you need. So we got some of those detailed questions this time. Last time they were all kind of little short questions. This time we had four that were pretty long and detailed, so we're going to go over those first. This one's from Cito78, and it is asking from Mechanics and Systems what physique parameter gives. That it can be obtained from various sources like bloodthirst, but there's no explanation in the game what this parameter gives. Well, as far as physique goes, you got me. There's not anywhere that tells us what physique is. I have
I
noted,
have an
and
answer.
you do have an answer.
Yeah,
Great.
physique increases the area of effect of melee skills specifically.
Okay, there you
There we
go.
go.
We have an answer to
It
what
also
physique does.
it also seems to increase character size slightly as well.
It does that, yeah. That's a people think it's just a cosmetic thing, but it also has a practical application of the aforementioned increase to melee size.
I was just going to put it on my list to ask the devs, but here we go. We've got some testers that have solved it on the mod team. So thank you
But
guys.
it's not necessarily explained clearly anywhere in game. Well, I think it is actually. I take that back. It is explained somewhere in game. I can't tell you where. I just know that I've seen it somewhere.
Somewhere it's actually got a tooltip. Okay. Great. Well, we've got an answer there for you, Ceto78. This one's from Time Space Blender, and it's also in Mechanics and Systems. And for this one, I'll need Zeta to answer it. He is the dot master. Does increasing
Okay.
duration of dots like Frost Pool or Shadow Swamp increase reap damage when you use reap purification, since reap purification settles remaining damage when reaping? I thought increasing remaining damage of time skills will increase reap damage when you use reap purification, but it doesn't seem to. So I think that might deal with the fact that it's hitting them over and over again type thing, or I'm
So
not
I can
sure.
actually explain what is going on there. So reap purification removes dots that are applied to the target that have a duration that are stuck on the target. So for example, wilt, ignite. Uh, but Shadow Swamp, for example, will not be affected by reap purification because the way it works is it's just a area that applies damage over time for however long that area exists. It is not tied to the enemy, so reap purification is not benefiting you on those cases.
Oh, that makes great sense. Thank you for that, Zadia. And We've got one from Fringe, and this is seasonal content, hero emblems. We've gone over this a couple of times, but if you missed it, it's asking, will hero emblems earned each season transfer to the next? For example, in this current season, if I don't want to purchase DOT yoga with the hero emblems, will my emblems be available for next season for whichever hero trait is available for purchase? The answer is yes. And we know already that at some point next season that Shotgun Carino will be available, and we know that's going to happen.
Frostbitten
So
Heart
Frostbitten
well.
Heart as well. We don't know if it'll be available right at the beginning of the season, but that way you can have your emblems ready as soon as they're available. So that is a good strategy to have. This one comes from Articus.
Hey, Rob, just a quick correction about something I said regarding the question about physique. People have mentioned in the chat, it applies to all AoE skills, not just melee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And this one is about mechanics and systems and crafting. And for the mobile and PC experience, the process of confirming, leaving, and selecting the same ember to roll for a certain piece, for a certain type and tier is tedious, making crafting longer and more prone to people skipping over the mod they want in hopes to speed up an already slow process. Is a change to this, i.e. making it so you can continue crafting with the same ember without needing to leave the confirm window in the works. I don't know if it is in the works, but it's a good suggestion, and it's very detailed and long, so that is something I will put forward to the devs. So that is going on my notepad right now. Moving, I guess a solution to that would be a repeat button or something like that. So a repeat button on craft window. So there you go. I've got it on my notepad to get to the devs as a suggestion. And you guys can leave detailed suggestions there as well that are a little over the scope of getting on mic and giving us here in the chat on the Crow's Corner. So that concludes what we had in the form that was submitted by you guys. Thank you guys for those. And we've got a presentation by Rockruff on the creation of decks and exactly how cards work within the game. So you can take it from here, Rockruff.
Thank you. Hello everyone, I'm Rockruff. I stream a lot and right now I mainly make minion related videos. I also write guides to share information with people. I know that Milky already went over cards for farming Flame Elementium, and I'm here to give the detailed information about cards itself and on how you can effectively use them. Let's start with attempts. So this green circle shows your Chaos Invasion attempts. You will get 5 attempts each round. Each map you do will take 1 attempt. It is very important to pay attention to this because this also helps you decide what maps you should run. After you run out of attempts, you will get the option to pick or upgrade a card. After that, you get the option to change your card deck. As you can see, my stage is currently filled with cards. Some of them won't have cards, so what do they actually do? Now let's take a look at cards and the information in general. Now let's take this card for example, Zeal. As you can see, there are 5 stars, and under the stars there's the affix, and then there's inheritance. Stars basically indicates the level of the card, and then the inheritance, if you click on it, it says after clearing the stage, the card affixes will work on all stages in this plane. The inheritance effect vanishes after taking effect a few times or when this round ends. Activating a stage is counted as 1 time. The count is displayed after the column. So stages are basically maps, so I'm going to call them maps instead. Depending on the amount of inheritance you have, the numbers tells you how many times you can use this card on different maps. It's basically like collecting cards and you can stack them together. There are also cards that don't have inheritance, but have memory instead. Let's say, for example, the Yearning card. This basically means that these cards will stay on the stage that it's been put on and won't be removed until the memory amount reaches 0. The cards with memory are cards that mainly have memory fragment affixes, so yeah, mainly the Yearning cards. If you click on the magnifying glass, you get a lot more details about the cards itself. You can see the levels and the difference between levels, and there's also Awakened. Awakened cards give cards a greater effect. For some cards, it can change the affix, and it can even increase the inheritance depending on the card. Cards can randomly awaken as you start a new round, or when you fish for cards. Cards can also awaken with the help of Chaos cards and Trade cards. On the right side, you can see where cards can appear. How to collect cards. So the best way to farm cards is to rush maps and run out of Chaos Invasion attempts. If you're looking to farm a specific card, you gotta look in your library. So let's go back to the library. And let's take the box show unknown cards. Well, since I already have all of them, you won't really see unknown cards. But you will be able to see which cards you are missing this way. So if you look at each one and click on the magnifying glass, you will be able to see where every card can appear. Some cards can appear in every single time mark, for like this one, for example. Other cards can only appear in specific time marks or come from bosses. To limit the amount of cards appearing, you want to farm in certain time marks. So let's say the card you want can appear in any time mark, like this one. Now there are other cards that can only appear in time mark 4 or above, which are mainly purple cards, like this one. And the yellow cards mainly appear in time mark 6 or above, for example, Harnessed. There are also other cards that can only appear on bosses. So the best way to farm your card is to go to the lowest time mark possible. Now, let's take, for example, this card again. And this card appears in time mark 1, 2, 3. So mainly you want to go to the lowest possible time mark, which can literally be 1, and you can keep on farming this card. You can farm maps and get this card to appear more often than the other cards, since you're basically like locking out the higher rarity cards. Let's talk about creating decks. So creating decks can be done in many different ways. All you have to do is read cards carefully to know what you need in order to effectively use them. Now let's take a look at my Ember farming deck. So this right here is my Ember farming deck, and the card that I'm always aiming for is the Zeal card. Zeal card. Magic monsters have a 16.9% chance to drop 1 additional Ember, and it gives me 5 inheritance. In order to get the best out of this card, I would need magic monsters. Now, there are cards for that as well. All of these. For example, let's take the Dowsy card. So this one gives 7 extra groups of normal monsters and 7 extra rare monsters and 5 inheritance. Now, of course, we want the magic monsters for the Zeal card. So I select all of the cards that give magic monsters. Another great card is the Tolerant card. The amount of embers dropped have a 30% chance to be multiplied by 2, and it gives me 2 inheritance. Reserved is also one of the cards that I like to keep in every single deck, so I can fish out for more cards when I don't have any good cards. I also like to keep Generous. Well, Generous is just a really good card to have. I always have this card no matter what I'm farming, but it's totally up to you how you want to build your deck. Another card I often have in my deck is Harnessed. So I talked about Chaos Invasion attempts before. Well, this card basically lets you sort of extend your round. This card allows you to do maps while not using Chaos Invasion attempts. It gives minus drops, but it comes in handy, especially when I decide to fish for cards and I happen to get like the good ones, but I only have a few attempts left. Now, there are a couple of cards that allow you to fish for cards. So you want to go to the card tag, and here are some of the cards that allows you to fish cards. And then there's the just card that allows you to awaken card in exchange for removing cards. Sometimes I rather use cards like longing or cautious. These cards allows me to draw cards from the chaos deck. So here is the longing card. Randomly picks +3 commodity chaos cards and places them on random empty stages. Now let's head to the chaos deck and see what commodity chaos cards are. So this is basically the chaos deck. Let's view the library and select commodity tag. Now, most of them are Ember cards, as you can see. So let's say I am farming Embers with my deck. I get one of these commodity cards, then I can basically drop specific Embers with the help of Chaos cards. And this is what I like about this deck. Like, the Chaos deck is kind of a special card deck, and you can combine them with your trade deck. These cards can always be useful. You won't always have to get the right, you won't always get the right ones, but sometimes it's just nice to run a map with some of these cards. For example, Perplexed. This gives me Flame Fuel drop becomes a 2% chance. Flame Fuel drop has a 2% chance to become fossils. Then there's also like something like Jealous, which gives you a guaranteed fossil if you defeat legendary monsters. And legendary monsters are like map bosses. There's also this card that I like to mention, Obtuse. This card allows you to not use any of your compasses or seeds right now. And yeah, it's just really nice to have. It's like using compasses without actually using them. Let's take a look at one of my other decks. So Glacial Abyss. There it is. So this is the deck I use for Flame Fuel farming. Now let's take a look at the generous card. Flame Fuel dropped have a 14% chance to be upgraded, and it gives me 2 inheritance. In order to effectively use this card, you would basically want Flame Fuel drops. Well, with the Sharp card, you can get Flame Fuel drops with 6 affix rare gear. Now, in order to make this card effective, you need 6 affix rare gears for the Flame Fuel. So, of course, there is also a card for that, which is the Magnanimous card, which gives rare monsters the chance to drop 1 more or 6 affix rare gears. So for this card, you would obviously want a bunch of rare monsters. In what order do I usually run my maps with these cards? Well, it depends on the cards given to me in each round. I mainly look at what the card gives, and I also like to look at the inheritance. Most cards give 5 inheritance. To me, it does not really matter in what order I run them depending on the card, but for example, in this deck, I do have my preferences. If I happen to get both Sharp and Magnanimous, I still prefer Sharp over the Magnanimous card. If you think about it, 6 affix rare gear always has a chance to drop. So if I get 6 affix rare gears, it can always change into Flame Fuel. Some cards only have 2 inheritance, for example, this Generous card, but those cards are usually really good cards. So I rather use them when I have 3 attempts left. 1 attempt goes to running the map to get the card, and the other goes to the last 2 maps I run. I hope it all makes sense, and I hope everyone has a better understanding now on how I use cards and how I combine them. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Rockruff, for that. Appreciate it. Now we're going to go through the FAQ that was put out, and a lot of these questions were directly answered by the devs. So we're going to zip over to the FAQ, and the first question, it's screen's not quite big enough, it got cut off, but it's what were the developers' thoughts on the current state of game balance? players have builds dealing billions of DPS and killing 4 Edict Keegan in 2 hits. And I thought they had a really interesting answer to this. And they don't want to limit the possibilities, so, and I quote, "We will take it." And they put a smiley face after that. So they don't want to limit the possibilities of insane metas. So they'll continue to be builds that do tons and tons of damage.
To me, that just almost sounds like we're going to design a boss that's even tougher than Uber Keegan. Just you guys wait.
Who knows? Who knows exactly what they mean by that? But I don't think they're gonna nerf the nerf to nerf the state of meta builds to kill that vibe of the game. On the PC, there's a method to go into files and manually make the GUI smaller. Is this punishable? The method that you're using to do that is not punishable, and you can talk about it freely. That applies to other things that you can do using that method. That's not something that is going to be punished at all. And that is something that they are working to fix, though. So enjoy it while you can. Is the pity or guaranteed threshold to get a legendary item in a banner shared between banners? Does it carry over to other banners in any way if the banner expires? And the answer to both of those questions is no. If it's a pity that's building up inside one banner, it's for that banner and that banner alone. When will any given known issue be fixed? And any given known issue, they will fix by next season. They expect to have all the known issues they have fixed by next season. They won't share the order of importance, or in vagueness they will. So I have a vague idea of orders of importance, but I don't have a detailed order of importance on that. And is there a known issue list? There is a known issue list. It's everything that gets reported to us properly through Crow's Corner, anything that you hear here, anything that is submitted in the bug reports with the proper format is well tracked and gets back to the developers in proper format. It gets back to them, and they are considered known issues. So they do hear you guys, especially through anything that is noted down by the community as a frequently noted question to the moderators or submitted in bug reports in the proper format. Will there be damage numbers coming out or tooltips coming out for things like some of those hero traits like Frost Pulse, Burst, and Divine Punishment? Also minion skills and some item skills like combo lightning and shattering. Yes, there will be some numbers coming for those, but there's no timetable on that. And where can the Firebird necklace and required level 76 items drop? That is now a known issue that just got brought to light a little bit ago to them, and it's now being worked on. And the last one is, how are you able to put one Ominous Ember or Restless Ember onto the same item? And we are going to get to that. But first, we're going to go over some questions that Curar has been kind of noting the important questions. I know there's a lot of silly questions you guys like to put into chat and joke around, and that's, everybody likes to joke around. But we're going to take some of the more serious questions you guys have asked, and we're going to answer those that you have asked in chat. If you'd like to come on mic when your question is called, feel more than free to ask for mic permissions. What do we got, Curar?
Not too many today by the looks of it. I've been putting a list together in a little notepad here. And I'm not sure how many of these we can actually answer is the thing.
It's okay.
But we'll start with this one. The buttons. I'm not sure. I didn't. My mistake. I didn't write down who asked these questions. So
That's all right. If you'd like to
you know who you
shout out your question, you can go ahead and type that into chat and give a shout out on your question.
Anyway, we'll start with this one. The buttons close to the center of the screen are extremely uncomfortable to tap on mobile. Is it possible to move the buttons to the side or let mobile users have some button placement control or options?
I will put that down as an issue. I'm a mobile user and I would like to change my layout as well. So mobile layout functionality. That is going on my
Honestly,
list.
that seems like a general thing for both PC and mobile, where
But I
they
can
have
answer it for
some
PC.
overlay.
It is coming to PC. I can't answer it for mobile, so I need to find out if it's in the works for mobile, and if it's not, I will get it to them as a major suggestion for mobile.
Okay, another one. This is about trait cards. Can the card reserved pull itself out of the deck? I.e., does drawing of new cards happen before this card disappears from the field or after?
Can reserve draw itself out of the deck? And I'm sure you can tell by how slowly I'm telling you this that I don't have an answer. And it's going on my notepad.
I believe that it can. I'm fairly sure that I've had that happen to me a few times, but I could just be imagining that. I'm fairly sure it can happen though.
The answer, Silex has the answer is yes. Nar is given the answer is yes. So we have two people that can confirm they've had that happen. So now we can officially say that yes, that can happen. I'm scratching it off the list. So everybody out there that listens to this knows, yes, that can happen.
Another question, games like this have always had issues with the game's economy getting incredibly out of hand. Will there be any safeguards put in place to ensure rampant inflation does not ruin a player's experience with late entry into leagues?
I don't think that late entry into a league is going to be something that can really be stopped. If someone starts in the middle of a league, they're going to have a hard uphill battle. And I don't think there's really any way around that. But you can create a character, get to level 80, get to level 90 pretty quickly on a character, and it doesn't take really long. Even in the start of a season, you can get to 80 or 90 pretty quickly, and you can then start to get your Elementium and start to do what you need to do in the trade house and go from there. I don't think that you're that far at a disadvantage. To answer your question, JP, yes, they are getting a supported way to change UI scaling. Any other ones, Kirar?
There's two more that just popped up in chat. Hang on, I'm just reading them.
Vala, as far as double dipping regarding elemental conversions, as they specifically state that they don't double dip into each other any longer, they used to, and then it was removed. So I don't see that coming back. And what she's referring to, or he is referring to, is if you had elemental, it adds to fire, which would then add to cold, and it adds to cold, which would then add to fire, so it double adds with Gemma's power.
So UIS And Buckin, your questions are essentially the same thing. That comes down to UI/UX adjustments, and I'm sure those are coming. Like that's one of the most commonly talked about things, one of the most common feedback that we get. So yeah, I would expect changes to just the default UI and our ability to customize it to our liking in future.
Vala or Valha, the question regarding Magic Find. Do we know anything about the if they have any plans to add Magic Find gear or not? From my understanding, I don't think there is, but I could be misremembering.
Well, that's going to be your loot finding pets. As far as adding that to gear, I don't know if there is any plans to add that to gear.
Yeah, there are a couple of small things for percent drops from implicits and corroded implicits on ring, but I don't believe that there is any real further.
Okay, so we've answered most of the questions for now, for today's Crow's Corner. Oh, you got another one, Cure?
Well, this is kind of Yun had some fairly these are some very technical questions, Yun. I don't know if this is the right forum for them, but we should definitely get clarification on the devs for these. But I will ask them anyway because I'm sure that people are wondering these, and it would be helpful for at least Rob to get a sense of this type of information request, because this is going to be tricky to translate from Chinese into English and what have you. So the three questions that Yun is asking, they're all relatively in the same vein. Does anyone know if piercing and res/armor reduction are additive? If not, which one calculates first? And is reduction / flat % reduction, or does it work like a multiplier to enemy defense? As I said, very technical stuff.
Zeta, do you know anything on that?
I can't give you any answers on any of those because those are like formula questions. I didn't get around to testing the formulas for anything. That's just a lot of testing to get accurate numbers for that stuff.
I will let you know on that. I have asked the devs that I have regular contact with about how exactly armor works and how exactly evasion works, which would be the two. Let's start with those, because those are the biggest ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gotten an I don't know from them. So they're gonna run that up the chain to as far as the math wizards go inside of XD and try and get some answers on that for me, which will then get to you guys. So as soon as I get the answers, as soon as they get the answers, I get the answers, you get the answers. So they are working on getting that from the wizards at XD.
Okay, and that's everything I had written down.
All right, well, that's it for today's November 9th Crow's Corner. And thank you all for coming. And now we're going to, oh, I forgot. Was I going to leave you guys hanging on the two most important things? No, I didn't forget. So we're going to go over how you do the ominous embers and how you do the what's coming about the seasonal items that are not actually seasonal items. So first, they're not actually seasonal items, okay? They're not exclusive to the season. They're not going to go away. They're not going to completely disappear. Just like the mechanic is not going to disappear, which would be corrosion. It's just not going to be as prevalent in a way, just like corrosion is not as well. So they're not going to be as powerful. And those items are the Keegan items, the Keegan specific items. So the Keegan specific only drops are the items that are going to be nerfed next season. So you can consider them in a way something that would be a legacy item in the standard server. But they will not disappear for they will be a legacy item in the standard server. But because they will be more powerful in the standard server. But they will not disappear completely. They will just be nerfed.
That
Now,
includes the class-specific items, right?
they
Like
did
those
not
are
say anything about the class-specific items. I asked, are the Uber Keegan items the specific items that are this league? And they
I was
said
including
yes.
I was asking if those were included in the Uber Keegan list. I was forgetting off the top of my head.
Okay, no problem. It's the Uber Keegan, and if there are any Keegan specific items, I would include those as well. It's the mechanic specific items to this season that are disappearing. So anything related to the mechanic of this season that's specific to that is what's going to be nerfed on the standard server for next season. For the standard server. And yep, that's it, Ian. It's as simple as that. So that's the answer to the list of which items are on the list and what's going to happen to them. So those are your legacy items and what's going to happen. They aren't being removed, they're getting nerfed, and so still hoard them, and that's which ones they are. Hopefully that's clear now. Now on to the one that's on everybody's number one list. How to get 2 ominous or 2 restless embers on a item. This is going to be a little tricky to explain, so strap yourselves in. If you were to have, say, gear percentage damage on a item, and you already had gear percentage damage on an item, increased damage, from a regular ember with your 6 affixes, and it was there, and it was already there before you started your ominous. Then you affixed an ominous, and it was not the higher gear percentage damage. It was anything else but the gear percentage damage. And you put an ominous affix on there. And then you left that ominous affix on there. Then you could roll the gear percentage ominous affix, the one that goes up to 180% of gear added physical damage. You could get that added onto the weapon, and that would replace the regular embers gear physical damage. Now that cannot be replaced with another ominous ember. If you re-roll that ominous ember, it's just going to re-roll your first ominous ember. So there's nothing you can do to get 2 super unique ominous embers. All you can get is a more powerful version of a regular ember's power. It has to be something that you have a regular ember for it, you already have that regular ember, and it has an absolutely identical but more powerful version of that affix, exactly the same in the ominous or the restless category. Does that make sense, guys? I know it's hard to explain. So I will take
It,
any
it's
questions
like
on it.
that's sort of like it entirely clicked for me like within the first sentence of that for me. But like I'm sure other people might have more questions. Yeah.
For anyone who has issues picking up what that means, Tenki's video about crafting recently actually addressed this. What it is, he has an example of it. It's just mod groups. You replace something within the same mod group. So physical damage percent on the ominous would replace the, or would be able to be replaced with physical damage percent normal ones, or other way around.
Yes.
So I think let me give this a try at explaining this, right? So the basic principle of it would essentially be to install a mod as a blocker mod. This blocker mod would, in this case, be the percent increased physical damage, and you want to dodge that mod twice. And once you've dodged that mod twice and put 2 additional ominous
No.
prefixes on the
You
item,
can't
or 1.
No, 1 is all you're going to be able to get is
1.
1.
So put 1 on the item, and then when you attempt another ominous ember, the normal behavior there would be that it would replace the initial ominous roll. But because the item also has a base ember percent fizz roll, that is the only one that can actually be re-rolled, and therefore it upgrades that one instead.
Yes, it'll upgrade the one you already have. And then that's all you can ever. Is this behavior sticking around is the next thing I was going to get to. They are not sure yet. It still is the number of ominous affixes that are there for what you're trying to replace. So if there's multiple ominous affixes, it can still replace your first affix, or it can replace the physical damage affix, or it can replace the first affix again, or replace the first affix again, or replace the first affix again. And you might do 10 rolls before it finally decides to replace that, before it tries to replace that physical damage one.
That's a good question, PoE Refugee. Would the would nerfs to direct nerfs to items apply retroactively or not?
No, they will not.
Cool. Simple.
Now, direct nerfs that are balance issues will. But as far as the nerfs making them legacy items from Uber Keegan, will not. The ones that are because it's a league change and you got them from Uber Keegan and they're just part of this season and not part of the next season, those will not change. But if they change
So
something
basically,
about
there's
the
two
game,
categories. There's going to be items that were nerfed because they are just becoming legacy, and items that are being nerfed because they're actually a problem.
yes.
Like, for example, if they, I don't know, released an item that let you shoot spells equal to the number of enemies on the screen at enemies every time you used a mobility skill. If there was an item like that in the game with a clearly bugged interaction, that might be fixed retroactively, perhaps. But in cases of something that's got like a high numerical modifier on it, like something going from 150 max life to 100 max life, that will likely not be retroactive.
Right. But there's your two big questions answered. So with that, now I will, for real, bid you guys adieu on the November 9th Crow's Corner. And I will still continue to take my little notepad to the devs and take your suggestions and questions to them. And yes, I will definitely take all the suggestions that I get to the player, to the devs. I have regular meetings with them, 1 to 2 a week, and they're literally 30, 45 minutes. Sometimes even they go, if there's a long list, an hour. We have mod meetings where we get together and get the multiple asked issues that we see in the community, and the devs actually are engaged and interested in what we see in the community, and they want to get you guys feedback. They're really engaged in those meetings. So it is really amazing to me how engaged they are and how interested they are in you guys' feedback. So I'll continue to do that, and we will see you at the next Crow's Corner.